Welcome back, everybody. Here we are for game number 2 of week 1 of the group stages of the CEA Overwatch tournament. Now, that is quite a mouthful, and here to help me get my teeth around that is Man of Class still. So, Classy, we are one match down of the evening, a little bit one-sided, a little bit of a quick match. How is this next matchup looking, do we think?
Well, first of all, we've got the teams. It's Garmin Force versus the Microsoft
Oh,
Overwatch Series X. There we go. Didn't get it out of my mouth quite as easily as I thought. But yeah, I mean, we last game we did have just two teams that were on paper potentially well matched, but then in practice, one team's teamwork was just outperforming them. They had a little bit more practice together. For these two teams, that is not necessarily the same story. I think when we look at what's going on here, it is a very, very balanced squad on the side of Microsoft. They have a
yep.
very, when you look at the SRs, it's fairly close together. There's a nice average that's coming out. And they've got a team on the side of Garmin Force where, yes, they played competitive, but their ratings are sometimes so far apart that you could either get a player that's just going to be carrying their entire squad on their backs, but then another player that is almost sabotaging them so hard that the carry might not be enough. They just keep hanging on their ankles, like drag me with you, please. But that's of course a bit of an exaggerated example. It's not trying to say they're bad, but that's sometimes just how that plays out. That's how that goes.
Yeah, there's only so much carrying you can do, but to,
Yeah,
to put a name to this, Izzy for Garmin Force is
sure.
a 4K player, whereas the Gagny is a 1K player. So they average out to a reasonably balanced team. And I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens when the rubber meets the road in terms of just how much carrying someone of Izzy's caliber is able to do. Because if Izzy has free reign just to tracer all over the map and take out backline targets before Microsoft can do anything about them, then that's it. It's a 3-0 sweep, frankly.
Yeah.
So Microsoft have to have their focus on doing something to shut down Izzy or something else to exploit perceived weaknesses in Garmin.
It's going to be an interesting matchup just for sure. And first map will probably be very telling as to what direction it might be leaning more to. But for now, these are both teams that are very new to us, very new to the CEA
Yes.
in terms of which players are on them. So for us, that's also a nice experience. And for the players, get into the experience of what it's
Yeah.
like to play this tournament with this group of players.
Absolutely, but we do have our first map locked in. We're going to be going to Lijiang Tower first off. Of course, it is standard across the entire world of competitive Overwatch. If you're playing a series, you start with control. The reason being that you, to the best of my knowledge, can't find a way to get a draw on a map like this, and so it sets the pace for the rest of the series. But
Yeah.
starting here on Control Center, I guess a lot of this is going to be dictated by what Izzy thinks they can play here.
I think it's looking like a Tracer. Tracer Sombra would be a preferred choice. Ashe is possible. Some other hits are, but usually they end up being fairly away from the team on their own somewhere on a high ground or on a flank. And if you're going to do that, you might as well go for the more mobility option, which Sombra and Tracer fit more. For me, it's also interesting to see what's going to come out on the other side. Currently, Nali and Kib have got that Bastion Reaper set up, and that would be
Interesting.
super cool to see what they're going to do with that. Where are they going to position the Bastion? Where's the Reaper going to teleport to? And how are they going to play around this Junkrat Sombra DPS lineup?
Well, they're going to be slow to the point here. No TP, no speed boost, and so it's going to be difficult for Nane to set up. And rather than look to get set up somewhere quickly, they're going on a big old flank with a surprise Bastion. Finds a pick. Oh, great bid down. But now Garmin Force make themselves scarce. Expect Izzy to try and make a rotation to do something to deal with Nali here. Bit of damage comes through onto Nali as they make their way through, but will make that rotation successfully. Kib finds Vlasmania, and it's looking like it might be an early cap here in the direction of Microsoft.
Microsoft playing that very, very intelligently. I think Nali recognizes that if you can actually successfully flank as Bastion, there's no hero that does more damage, at least at that consistency of a basis. So very nice to see that they're basically rotating exactly where Nali isn't, or that Nali is rotating especially where the fight isn't taking place. Because the Bastion's one fear is the enemy team actually getting on top of them.
Definitely signs of life here for Garmin Force, particularly as KYB was taken down. And Izzy is closing in very quickly on this EMP. Expect to have that online in the next few seconds. Makes the rotation on the right-hand side, gets a very quick hack through, but it's not quick enough because Nelly's able to find the double here. And now has the configuration tank form, gets boosted up into the air. And this is actually great from Plasmania. Soaks up a huge amount of attention, but the shield can only take so much of a beating. And now it's back to spawn for Plasmania.
It's just the exact same thing happened again. Nali was rotating away through the server room, then came back after her entire team had actually backed off down the stairs and created that crossfire, created opportunity to shoot behind the shields of Garmin here. Garmin coming back into it, gets EMP'd, Microsoft does.
That is a big EMP, but there's just no follow-up here on the back of it. Managed to get 2 here, but they haven't touched Nelly, who is still in a position to cause a heck of a lot of trouble. Getting focused down and down. Script able to get on top of them and take them out of this. This is looking like it might just be where Garmin Force start to turn the tide. Riptide is coming in, but it's a little bit slow. Bones is able to swing through Plasmania. Script's down. Their Ex Machina down as well. And it was looking great here for Garmin Force, but Microsoft just dig in and bunker down.
It's another layer that Bastion flank strategy brings. It's while there are 2 or 3 members for dealing with the Bastion, the entirety of the rest of Microsoft can deal with Garmin Force, the rest of the members that aren't there. It's such a split.
Okay, that's a start. EMP will stop the Reaper ultimate as well. And this is it. It's taken them right into the final few seconds. If they can take down Nayli here, they're in a great position to win this. Now they're stuck in the configuration tank. Not going to be able to get a kill, and now caught in no man's land. But Garmin Force are not pressing the advantage here. Charge going to come through, won't connect, goes right past them, will maybe secure the stacker kill onto Nayli. But Nayli is doing an excellent job here of retreating. They actually get out and reset. That should not have happened.
Oh, it's amazing to see this Bastion play is just throwing Garmin for a loop. That's really what's happening here. Because they haven't even hacked the Bastion. It's really just been Izzy trying to focus on the rest of the objective. It's now on a 1v1 with Nali on the side while the rest of the team just squares off. And that's cancel, that shatter.
That's unfortunate for Buns here. We'll see Julian Coalescence in the sound barrier. Somehow, Nayli has landed on the top of one of those ridges, gets hacked into the configuration tank bomb, gets the EMP over the top for good measure. Kid is back on the soldier and will be able to find Plasmania here. EMP still coming through, still seeing low HP targets. Nayli still up. He gets 2, he gets 3, VH3 gets in on the action. And the configuration tank comes through. It is just the Gagnon left trying to absorb as much of that damage as they can. Still holding on to a few final percent of control here on the control center. But Nayli, with all the confidence of the world, goes back into the turret form. He secured the flip, the Helix rocket deals with the tire, and now Garmin Force are out of options.
Oh, that was so beautifully done. You think, why do you throw the Graviton? There's no one else there. But then you realize there are no shields. There's just 3 heroes stuck in a Graviton with a Bastion looking at them from across the map. And I know Bastion has a little bit of spread. Definitely happens, but that was an insane way to close out that fight. That was not something you see happening. And again, Garmin just doesn't know how to deal with that Bastion right now. And who knows? Maybe they're going to go with the Symmetra teleport on top of it right now. But even if they don't, there needs to be a way in which one hero can deal with Nali on the Bastion. Because if she gets to just be on her own the entire time and just run around that way, then she needs to be countered by one thing and not by 3 heroes, because you just lose the split that way. And now Izzy's going on the Bastion to try and counter that. Like, that might be the way. Sometimes the way is just to mirror it and you win that way. And you do have more shields, so it might be the solution.
And here's the other big advantage. Old Greybeard coming over Lucio ensures that we get Izzy to the point first here for Garmin Force. We see the long rotation along the sidelines here for Microsoft. Old Greybeard overstays their welcome on the backside of the point by Kid coming in on the Reaper at the far side, closes the distance, receives the rock, ducking and diving, dancing around Izzy, but Izzy's tracking far too good. For fun is able to find Izzy though, and Garmin Force are a long way from out of the woods. It's a big squishy charge on the PH3 on the Mercy. And what was looking great for Garmin Force there with their quicker time to the point has just not worked out.
Well, you see Garmin Force trying to adopt this Bastion strategy now, right? Like, they're trying to figure out, okay, so how does it work? How do we execute it? And they're playing the Bastion way more with the team. Less in the flank, less trying to find their own way. Just walking behind the Reinhardt with the rest of the squad. And that's not how Nali has been playing it. It's starting to be that way now, but maybe because of the map. But it's still a separate unit. That's a good shatter, though.
That's a heck of a shatter. Vlasmeni is able to find KYB there. We get the coalescence. We get the shatter as well. Nearly finds Lena Script, and KYB is brought back into the fight. Care of the rest from BH3. Izzy is set up. You see 1 kill on the board, 2 kills on the board, and Naily is down. Configuration tank on the table for Izzy. Charging forward, looking for targets. Sound barrier for good measure here. Izzy with the double, and now it is cleanup as Garmin Force look to come in and take the points.
Garmin Force getting control of an objective. It's definitely something they sorely needed. They're going to be able to try and match up and even beat this percentage score that Microsoft has built up for themselves. Series X is definitely the way. Experimental new generation of Bastion play. You love to see it. But it's also been up to the tanks to really hold their front line well. You do see Buns and 40 Fun just doing such a good job once again right there. Win the Reinhardt battle, and it's over before it even starts, Phil.
Where was that fight even happening, Classy? We were busy looking at what was happening towards Series X's spawn, and whilst we were looking that, Garmin Force just evaporated.
But that's because Garmin Force wasn't together. There was a Lucio and a Reinhardt in front there. There's a Junkrat somewhere around the objective. I don't remember where Izzy was. So it's like they were all over the place. They didn't really fight as a unit there. And then, of course, Microsoft Series X just says, you know what? We'll take it. We have the advantage here. Why not?
And they're on the defense with 5 out of 6 ultimates. Nave's going to start things off here with the configuration tank. Finds Lena Script. Fun's able to focus down Gagny, and Fun is on the hunt. Finds Dea Ex Machina, and it is back to spawn for her. Huge amount of pressure coming out from the high charge. Zarya hit. Has to dodge the damage orb, and now everyone's got to run in fear here from the Riptire, looking for anything here. Finds Fun. It's an opening, and with a nano-boosted Bastion with the configuration tank form, but nothing except shield for all those bullets on the configuration tank form. Death Blossom's finding one, but it's going to trade out very quickly. Lena Script and Izzy are going back and forth and back and forth. Overtime almost ticks away as Naily looks to make the way onto the point. The Gagny left alone, trying to keep this going. PH3 is able to bring Yui back to the fight. Naily deals with the Gagny, and that has got to be it here. One last valiant tag back onto point for old Greybeard, and that is it. Classy, that was not the way I thought that was going to go.
I don't think anyone was expecting that to happen, but that's why it was so beautiful, right? It was the unexpectedness of not only the Bastion pick, but the way it was executed. You never knew where Nali was going to be. And if the rest of the team also knows where Nali's gonna rotate, or where she wants everyone to rotate, so that she's not with the team, like this flank maneuver. Look where the fight's taking place and where Nali is. Like, that's what the effectiveness of that Bastion was all about not setting up like a bunker like everyone does, because that just gives the enemy team one direction to attack. Then those EMPs find value. That's when the Sombra really does well, when all these Junkrat picks and things like that just overwhelm that entire bunker and the Bastion with it. So we'll see if this is going to carry on through the next maps, whether it does or does not. I don't know if it's a specific control strat. It kind of feels like it is because of the how much you have to maneuver as Bastion. So the maps being more enclosed helps you out, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I would love to see more of that. It's just, we'll see if it finds more value or not.
I don't think any other control map in the game would have as much of a conducive environment to running the Bastion in the style that we saw Nali run on that particular thing. You know, like Oasis doesn't give you as many routes to attack the point, neither does Ilios well. And so I feel like this is a thing that works. Yeah, Mecha Base, fair enough. But I think you take more of a risk when it is like Control Center. Lijiang Tower has this reputation as being kind of the crazy map where you get to run like Symmetra and Junkrat and Bastion and stuff like that. But we move next onto a payload map. And there are two things you typically think of for when you're thinking of where you can put a bastion, right? You're thinking, cool, we're bunkered up in a high ground place where nothing can touch us, or we are going full pirate ship, sails up, anchors back on board, powering on through, and nothing can stop the cannon. So, going to a payload map here, we might actually see more from Gnarly here on the Bastion.
And it's very fitting. I mean, the sea shanties have been coming back, so why not put the pirate ships right there with the Bastion, with Reinhardt? Orisa is buffed, so why not get an extra shield there? You know, there's definitely a lot of possibility there to put it up. But that being said, it's also when you put a Bastion on the payload on a map like Dorado, where there is so much high ground, where there is so much potential to get that Bastion off, it's hard to pull off still. I'm not sure where they're gonna do it. I would be excited if they did it, but there's a real possibility that they're gonna go for something else, and they have a specific strategy for this map. But it is, of course, Microsoft Overwatch Series X's choice, which map they're going to. So they might have their own ideas of what's good or bad on this map. And I will say, if Izzy's able to charge as many EMPs as Izzy was doing on that control center map, then this could still be a very close series because it was getting a lot of value if the Bastion hadn't been there.
Yeah, the Bastion was the onion in the ointment. And if you look at what is in Izzy's hero pool, the Sombra is kind of a counter for the Bastion, but it relies on you being very sneaky. And the point is, Izzy was playing, Gnarly was playing with the rest of the team. So it's hard to get into an angle to find a hack on the Bastion and take them out of the running. So the other option really for Izzy would probably be the Tracer, which I don't think is really particularly great as a counter to the Bastion, unless you are super, super good with your pulse bomb sticks.
For sure. And as we're going to go into this map in a very short moment, yeah, going to be also seeing whether they want to, well, whether especially I would say Garmin wants to adopt something new, because Garmin has been coming into this. You know, we said it before. You know, they have that Izzy, that dangerous 4K player on the DPS, but DPS doesn't always decide everything that goes on in the game.
No.
It's always a combination of tanks and heals and DPS, like all together. If you don't give your DPS enough space, they might not even be able to hit enough shots. If your tanks are not be able to kept alive, then you know they can't really make the space. If your supports don't get peeled for, then they cannot support the DPS and the tanks to do their jobs. Like it's all that combination that just keeps on going in a circle, and you all work together as a unit as a whole. That's what makes Overwatch so beautiful as a game. You know, it's that coordination that's required, that depth of communication.
And speaking of beautiful game, our observer Ben having a bit of fun there, showing us one of the more unusual starts to a map on Dorado that I think I've seen, focused solely on this one fish in a set of stands in the square. I don't know that I've seen that before. Still, thank you, Ben, for showing us something new. I didn't know it was there. Did you know there was a fish there, Classy?
I know it's there, yeah, because these are market stands. There's a lot of stuff on there that you would not think would be on a market, but they're there. It is curious to me why it's one fish, you know? Like, it's not like an entire cart of fish. It's just one specific fish.
Just drag this one fish all the way from
the
sea.
It's like questionable, right? I mean, it is a harbor village. There's a lot of boats out there, so there would be more fishing, and it's nighttime, so it's maybe the end of the day. They've already been sold. But what's definitely not been sold is these players' lust for playing the game. So, Phil, we're looking at another Gnarly Bastion round, this time on the defense on Dorado, set up on the high ground, and again, not behind the Reinhardt shield. Gnarly is going to be looking for that flank, looking for someone to get up there, looking for someone to walk around and potentially take up position behind the enemy team.
I have to assume they don't know that Gnarly is here. Gnarly has not put one robotic foot out here. But up comes Izzy. Bit of damage doing to Izzy, forcing them off the high ground. Gnarly's not been able to get a huge amount done here, but now that they know there is that threat, Garmin Force are going to have to play a little bit careful here. Kib's able to find the first pick, raised back in, and there's the second. We were all so focused on Gnarly, we didn't notice that Kib is already halfway towards the ultimate, but those kills have not done much to stop the payload. But this is probably the hardest point on this first point to get stopped at, just past this choke at the top of the stairs. Very hard to break once you've stalled.
Yeah, I think Gnarly is looking for that angle. It's like, where am I going to set up once they get through the choke? Where am I going to be able to get a lot of value? Now, I would say that high ground route is probably very appealing, but you can so easily get stopped in your flanking there. There's a Junkrat up there, Roadhog, Reinhardt are all going through that high ground to find that easier route of approach. And that's definitely a smart thing to do. You know, throw them for a loop.
Oh,
but
the
Nali knows.
crossfire. Beautiful crossfire there from Nali. Is able to get a quick bob and get them back into the fight. For Thunderous back in as well. This has been pretty good as a start from Garmin Force to draw some focus and attention, but not enough just yet, as Nali and Kip between them are putting down far too much firepower. There's the pick onto Vlasmania. Has seen a little bit of progress made on the cart, but maybe not quite enough to break this hole at the top of the slope. No, the cart is still moving forward. Hook comes through, and Nali is in real trouble now. Luckily, there is the mercy of PH3 there to keep him in the fight, and as the players from Garmin Force look to try and make the rotation to deal with Nali, the rest of the team fold in on them and take them out of the fight.
I mean, you can see it right there. Like,
what
unless you have a real disable or an antibiotic grenade, I mean, it's aggressive posturing because there's nothing that can really get you right there right now. There's respawns going, but that healing that Nali has, that extra support that also then gets given by a Mercy or a Moira, just makes them almost unkillable when they start retreating. It's kind of like a Reaper Wraith form, or, you know, the Roadhog Take a Breather effect. It's so powerful.
Yeah, frustratingly powerful if my rank games are anything to go by. Buns here closing in on the Earth Shadow, where we see, beautiful from Nali, held their ground, stood down, steered the tire, dead in the rim, and took it out. One less tool in the arsenal here for Lennon Script, who is now themselves down and out of the fight. Oh, that's a big Shadow. Oh, that's a big Fire Strike. We get the Nano Boost as well, and Vlasmania just takes everybody out for Ice Cream.
That was the one time the Reinhardt was not in front of the other Reinhardt, and Vlasmania capitalizes straight away. Well recognized as well.
Yes,
I mean, you saw so much. You might have thought, like, in a lot of situations that may not be the right play to make, but this is definitely not one of those situations. Good follow-up to the rest of the team recognizing it. Now they're going into the street space, and now again, it's the question, where's Nali going to set up? But definitely it's going to be high ground. How far forward? Which angle are they taking? How far are they going to let the payload roll this time before Nali is able to get the value out of that Bastion?
But look what Series X have to play with. Nearly all 6 ults on board. We've almost got a whole hog from Garmin Force, and that's not going to be enough to counter what is about to come their way. And it is both DPS ults rained in at the same time, and Nali is coming in and wants to play in melee range here. The hook comes in, and the Helix rocket follows it. That was beautiful play. That only cost them 2 DPS ults. That was great value.
It's a great strategy as well to do, because essentially what they've been doing all game is trying to set up Crossfire somehow. And a Soldier ult, while it maybe usually doesn't get that much value, because of course, you know, it's not a whole lot of damage, and you can relatively easily block it with a lot of abilities and out-heal it. If there's also a Bastion ult raining down above you from another angle, you can't block both at the same time. So they had to choose, and they couldn't choose. Even if they chose, they would always choose wrong. So that's a beautiful way to set it up, and they got away from that. Nali is just not letting anybody play the game right now, the DPS on the other side, and that's, well, that's what you want. You wanted to win those DPS duels. And now they're ready for the Graviton play!
There it is. Won't find too much through it. Oh no, Nali's able to get it. Nali up on the high ground still finds the damage. There's the 3k, all assisted by a beautiful Graviton Surge to drop down from 4-0 Fun. 90 seconds left on the clock, Mana Class, and we still have ults available here for Series X.
We do. I mean, it's the Mercy ult, the Reinhardt ult, and the DPS ults will undoubtedly be back very shortly after that fight starts. They're both at the 75 to 80%. There is a lot to work with from Garmin, but I don't know if Garmin is going to be able to use those effectively. They still need to get on the high ground, which they now seem to be wanting to do, or at least get a far around this. But yeah, they need to find this angle, need to find a way to get up there.
But this is a perfect place to have a Bastion. There's basically an impenetrable fortress here, this yellow church building. It just gives them so many places to play and so many places to hide. We'll see the Valkyrie popped here from old Greybeard. Give them a bit of extra damage on the way through as they look to aggress onto the high ground position. There's the Earth Shadow, will stun a couple, the counter Shadow is out, and Kib is able to just back away and start to pile in additional damage, but the shield is up there from Vlasmania, who has that nano boost online, and Kib tried to juke, tried to duck and to dive, but couldn't get out of the way of the charge from the Reinhardt. Nali once more in melee range, takes out the Junkrat, now closes the distance, wants to take the Gagny out of the fight, or at the very least stop them approaching the rest of it. The hook is broken, and Gnarly retreats around the corner, but is just playing in the midst of the enemy. Tracks down the mercy of Old Greybeard, takes them down, almost deletes the Roadhog from the game there. The Dagny just popping back in time, gets the hook off, but Gnarly has the room to sit down, receive the Zeri, and just decimate the opponent.
Right now, we're looking at a way where a Bastion is the carry of a team. And since the launch of Overwatch, it's been a long time since that's been a thing. And we had it for like a short time in the double barrier meta, where it was just set up Bastions on both sides with Baptiste, get the Sigma Orisa out, and just see who uses their cooldowns just effectively enough for the one Bastion to get more damage in than the other. But now we're in a place where that's not how this Bastion's being played anymore. You don't set them up as a bunker and just hope it works or hope you do better than the other bunker. You set the Bastion up wherever the Bastion wants to set up, and preferably at an angle that's not part of the fight, like an angle that's not being thought of by the other team. And the way you set up those crossfires with that Soldier Bastion, you essentially create two soldiers. Just one is a little bit more static when he's set up. But yeah, they both have a lot of sustain and escapability in that way, and do a very similar damage in a very similar way. So definitely, it's understandable to combine those two heroes. And again, the way they're executing this right now, that's what's the most fascinating. It's not about what the heroes do individually. It's not about what they can do. It's more about it's the execution as a team, the communication that they go about it. That's what makes Microsoft Series X work right now.
Well, more Bastion coming out here from both sides. Let's see if the attack Bastion is as good for Series X as the defensive Bastion was. It will just be straight on the cart, riding it pirate style, but notice there is no protective barrier here. And as Vlasmania drops down, we remove the protective barrier for Izzy and gets taken out of the fight. Rezzed immediately back into it, but that is a lot of positioning given over as the cart starts to make its way through this first arch. You can see the quick rotation from Garmin as they look to try and take the top of the slope. If it's not quick enough, they're going to be in real trouble here because this composition will just barrel through them.
Is he really trying to find an angle here with that Bastion to make sure that they can rain down damage on as much heroes as possible? But they're sort of reactively positioning. They do get Kip there, and they already got an ultimate. It's a great start.
Wow.
Might actually get Nolly here, but there is a res, and the Gagne has also gone down. Is he still not fully convincingly performing on this Bastion right now? But it's starting to happen.
I feel like this is the first good defense we've seen from these guys, and you will just hear the little siren noises there from Izzy's Bastion dictating that they are in fact on fire. So, gotta say, it's working out for them so far. They have not had to give up this high ground position yet, and that's huge.
Very huge. You see, seeing Izzy look for like where they're gonna come from, so where do I need to set up, and it's still a bit preemptive. They are still waiting for that angle to happen, but Nolly recognizing exactly the angle they need, but the anti-nade is good.
Yeah, man, that anti was absolutely massive in taking care of that one. And Vlasmania now in a little bit of trouble, got a little bit over-aggressive. Has to be careful because, of course, there is a Bastion on the opposite side. Gnarly has proven to be very, very capable here. The rotation is good. It's quick, and they're getting up behind Izzy. But Izzy knew they were coming through, and 4-0 was not able to make that rotation quickly. Gnarly gets taken out by the charge as well, and suddenly this Bastion-centric comp is starting to flounder a little bit here for Series X. Having said that, the kills are coming through, this time without the Bastion. Great position here from Kib, ducks under the line of fire from Izzy, and they're able to get that going. And now LenaScript is right in the line of fire with Kib, and they break that hold. It was a risky ult from the Gagne, and it paid nothing for them, taken out in the middle of the Gravitic Flux.
It's why they res the Sigma, because they wanted to get that flux out, and then it gets just blasted like that. The old Greybeard will go down late, and sometimes it's better to die young than to live longer. Nolly will get blasted by Izzy there, but that is a great grab.
Rezzed back in, and just a smidge too late on committing that ult there from Lena. Finds nothing, taken out of it by Gnarly as the payload squeaks his way through. Gnarly able to find yet another kill here. And now we are in the streets phase of Dorado, and the payload only has to make it round that third corner of the map.
3 corners is all they need to complete Dorado, and they have quite a few ultimates to work with. That being said, though, we're going to get a Pharmacy coming out from Lena Script and El Greybear now. It's a bit of a different angle. They're trying to create their own crossfire in a different way, but you're working against 2 hit scans, and Kip has already taken down Izzy on the high ground, on the flank.
Well, there's one on a trade, but Buns with a Shadow has done. I'm sorry, not even Buns with a Shadow. Vlad maybe have dropped the Shadow, but it's Buns that found the value. Coalescence online as well, and they are surging their way forward. Izzy's going to throw in this configuration tank. Finds 2, dodges some of the damage, gets a little bit more HP, gets in a position to set themselves back up again, but Gnarly has made the rotation, pops the configuration tank, and goes Bastion to Bastion with Izzy, and secures the win here on Dorado for Microsoft OW Series X. It's 2-0 in the series.
Yeah, so we're in this position now where we're looking at a team that plays around this Bastion, and we said before after Lijiang Tower, we're like, okay, so the Bastion might not work as well on Dorado or in other map types, such as possibility. But I think we can conclude that I don't think it really matters what map they go to, that Bastion will find value. And I'm looking at Garmin right now to find a way to counter that Bastion that isn't just playing your own Bastion, because that hasn't been working. It keeps being that conversation that we've had so many times in different metas, where if the other team is undoubtedly better at that composition, mirroring it will definitely not be the solution. So you got to find something else to do. You got to find some other way to counter it. And they're not completely matching the composition. I'll attest to that. That's definitely true. But they're trying to mirror that linchpin that Microsoft's playing around right now with Nolly on that Bastion. So I am curious to see whether they'll try something else, whether the map choice they make will actually enforce that choice, or whether they're going to keep trying to run at this with that Bastion mirror or some other thing like that.
Well, they're only going to get one more go at this. If they can't make this work on our next map through, that's it. It's going to go to a 3-0 for the second time today in favor of Series X. But can I see? I feel like there's a bit of a puzzle here that we've not really discussed that I think we possibly should. So, Gnarly is actually a sub for this roster, having I don't know if retired is quite the right word, but had played for a Microsoft team previously. Was in fact a previous captain for a Microsoft team that you might want to call them the A team, and has stepped out of retirement to fill this sub role, which makes me think they can't have been scrimming and practicing this. Surely, like this is not a composition that they have spent hours and hours and hours working on, because Gnarly kind of isn't supposed to be here.
No, for sure. But I mean, you never know how involved they are with the team, so it's hard to really draw conclusions from that the fact that we know this. And that being said, like the communication isn't that hard about it. Like it's not a hard strategy to explain. Where it's like, I'm Bastion, but you don't really have to worry about me. Like I'll yell when I need help, basically, because that's kind of the way that Nolly is playing right now. Like Nolly is finding her own path wherever the team isn't, or wherever she needs to set up a crossfire, and those are relatively easy callouts to make. There's a lot of heroes or a lot of combinations, like combination plays, where people are like, "Oh, but the communication's so easy. Why can't you pull it off?" But then the mechanic and the timing issues are actually there. In this case, it's not that hard to communicate this. At least it shouldn't be. So it's something that could be integrated fairly regularly in almost any composition you want to. Going to King's Row here, I expect that there will be some changes to how they executed it. I mean, I know you already know that it's going to be King's Row because it's always King's Row when you go to hybrid.
It's the only hybrid map in the CEA
It's the only hybrid map. Yeah, exactly. If it's available, it will be picked the majority of the time. That's definitely a fact. We're going to see whether, I mean, I kind of imagine that they don't go with the Bastion now because we've seen it. But are we going to be seeing some interesting things with the Bastion in terms of, maybe a Symmetra teleporter on top of the statue and the attack or something like that? It would be fun, but I do think they are also, I wouldn't say too smart for that, but they're also too, I think they if you're gonna play Bastion on King's Row, and if you've already played 2 maps Bastion on the King's Row on the maps previously, then the other team might expect that Bastion attack strats. I don't think they'll do that. It's coming out on the defense though, so that's where they're going to set up with. It's the same combination Porofon on the Zarya, Buns on the Reinhardt. And we haven't really talked about that tank combo. That's been doing it amazingly versus Flaz and the Gagne. And we talked about that before, where one of the tanks on the Garmin side might be a little bit of a weak link. So far, that has maybe been showing in the way that a tank duo has been winning.
It's so much of your strength is not necessarily the individual tanks, although admittedly two strong tanks will do you well, but how well they know how to play together. And a skill differential, somebody doing something that a higher ranked player wouldn't expect, can be very difficult to counter. But look at this high ground bunker strategy. Starting off here for Series X on the defense. Looks like we're getting the great wraparound here. Good calling, good knowledge from Garmin to not just stand on the point and hope to force them down, but we actually see a counter rotation here. The team splits. Now he's going to take this high ground position and provide covering fire. Kib 2, whilst we see the tanks take up kind of... Oh, that's a big charge. Will find the kill here. It's a 1-for-1 trade there, and they do have PH3 to get the raise. Nally is back in the fight, but they lose Yumi as part of the exchange. Plasmania won't quite get the charge in time. Drops the shield to go for the charge, and Nally rips him a new one. Linascript still on the point. We've not quite got the single point cap for 1/3 capture progress here. And it's a fire strike to the face for Linascript, and a scrappy hold, but a successful hold for Microsoft.
First hold is down. Only 2 minutes 50 on the clock. It's already almost a third of the time down. Not a disaster, of course. You want to sometimes build up some ultimates. And Izzy back on the Sombra is promising. They were doing amazingly on that on the control center.
We'll see them look to take a little more of a low ground hold here for Series X. Buns finds a miracle fire strike onto Izzy with a helper boost there from Mercy. Charge comes through, connects. Vlasmania in a great position to find the kill here. Old Greybeard finds Yomi. Kid pops the tactical visor, but might have been a little bit early on that one. Shadow now out from both Reinhardts. It's 2 for 2, but they still have not found a way to deal with Gnarly. 1 tick gained. Gnarly is hacked, has the high ground position still, jumps down. Old Greybeard looking to try and follow and cause a bit of chaos. The pin connects and Gnarly goes down. Old Greybeard looking to maintain some presence on the point and start to turn things around here for Garmin Force. Buns in a position where they can come back in, will find the kill, but can't commit to retaking the point. And now we move on to Streets. Ooh, a sleep kill.
Streets
amazing.
You love to see. I mean, I think sleep does like 5 damage, 10 damage, something like that. It's not a lot. So they're pretty rare, but sometimes it just happens. It's fun, and if you hit those, you can feel good about yourself as an Ana. And the Ex Machina has been playing a very decent Ana. We've seen a few good anti-nades, especially on the last map coming out. And there again, that could have been a good one. Had the shield not been up, so they at least got those down. And that's a hallmark of a good Ana, as we always say.
Absolutely. Well, playing around the corner here for Series X, a little bit of poke. I think, yeah, okay, they're actually scouting here for Izzy, who wants to relay information back to the team. Nice rotation again from Garmin Force, and I'm starting to feel a little more leadership presence here for Garmin, as they've made a couple of very good rotations to force Microsoft out of position. And Microsoft are now backpedaling fairly heavily. This is going to be the second corner they've given up. Nali is looking for a pick, attempts to escape the gravitic flux, but instead walks into the middle of it, lines them all up for the shatter. There comes the tactical visor from Kib, but just again a little bit too late. And that's going to be it. Izzy once more with an EMP to play with, PH3 down, and I feel like Garmin Force have finally headed in the right direction.
It's definitely a combination of Garmin Force playing with the information game well, like Izzy is just scouting out correctly and they're rotating accordingly, but also about the lack of room to really rotate and counter that on the side of Microsoft right now. They can't do that same open space as they did on Control and Dorado.
Ooh. We are getting every ult in the game thrown at it here. The Sandberry, the EMP, and the Riptide. The Riptide only finds one. Vlasmania gets one themselves. A big charge in by Vlasmania. They have overcommitted here. The big health pool and the shield and the help there from Old Greybeard on the Lucio helps him get out of that. You can see Gnarly making a dangerous rotation into the backline. They've not been successful here. Garmin Force turn on them in mass and take her out of the fight. The trade back and finding one here, taking Deus Ex Machina out of the fight. The Ganir lands a beautiful rock there onto Buns, who gets focused down by Izzy. Graviton Surge layered up with the Coalescence, and Kib looking for something, anything at all there with Tactical Visor, the third Tac Visor with little to no value out of it. Gnarly with one last Hail Mary of a configuration tank bomb here, takes a lot of damage and trying to get set up on the cart, has to retreat, and now is just going to try and hold this corner and burn anybody that comes through.
This time around,
there's a big shatter. Forafun finds one. Izzy's going to go down here, and finally, Microsoft can start to turn this around. Kib has made the swap here onto the May, which I think is huge, cutting off sightlines, slowing down attacks, securing the kills for the rest of his team, and now on the hunt for this one last stagger kill onto Dea Ex Machina.
And now you can't flank. Now you can't out-rotate. Now it's just a straight up, this is where the objective is. You need to push into it, and we're going to wait for you. We're going to poke at you as you approach. This is where Nali as a Bastion finally gets the real power that the Bastion has on this map. This is where Bastion was pulled out even in pro matches on the third point. So it's definitely a hard one. You can already see Nali on that crossfire, wants to look at it, wants to set up in a route that she can already have impact right now.
Oh, we get the nano boosted configuration tank form. The Walden Kib will actually slow some of that down a little bit, buys a couple of seconds of reprieve, and in the meantime, Series X make themselves scarce. No, a little bit wide on that charge there from Blasmania. Collides with the door rather than with Gnarly. Gnarly will get taken down though. Lena Script able to get up close and personal and throw it in the mine. Shatter out from Blasmania, but it's nothing but shield there. Great read from Buns, who now has a shatter of their own. There's the Graviton Surge, but Buns will not survive the way through it. Izzy's able to find two here, and the big bulk healing provided by the Moira is gone. And with that out of the way, Izzy is able to start to pile in the damage. It's a big freeze, but it's a big freeze without any real punch behind it. So they may be frozen, but they were not worn down enough. And as we approach the final few meters of cart progress, can anybody even get on an attack? It is contested. Who's even there keeping this going? We force Gnarly and Kib to swap now. They're on speed heroes to get back here, but Gnarly just bursted down into the Lena Script. Kib is dancing around and trying to keep this going. Forefront and raised back in, but now the configuration tank form is online from Izzy. They can just splash this damage anywhere they want to find kills. And for Garmin Force, it's all about just burning as much time off this as possible. We got Yomi coming in on the Lucio, just hopping around and keep this going. Gnarly back in on the Tracer. They just want every second of life they can get on this. For a fun tank back in now on the Diva. Boot wide, avoids the shatter, and is able to keep themselves in this point. But the second they tag off this card, it is going to be less than a meter away on the payload. All they have to do is clear them for a fraction of a second. The sound barrier is going to do it for them. But what a time burn.
That was actually quite close to even flipping the other way. I mean, Yomi had one or two boops that almost threw a few players off the map. They of course got Nali as the Bastion out of there, so they already had that 5 heroes instead of 6 heroes on the cart, and they were getting numbers back as well. It was actually quite close to flipping back, but fortunately for Garmin, they were able to keep their cool, keep their calm, and clear the heroes off the cart eventually. Like you said, it did take a long time. A lot of time burned, like I think over a minute almost. So 27 seconds left on the clock. Not a huge time bank, but completing King's Row is always nice. Completing any map is always nice, especially with time left, because it will ensure you another attack attempt. Now we will see what the change in strategy is potentially coming out here for Microsoft Overwatch Series X, and that'll be later. Right now we're going to be seeing the defense run out with the old Gagne on the Sigma, Vlasmania on the Reinhardt, Lena Script and Izzy again on the Junkrat and the Sombra, and Dea Ex Machina and old Greybeard on the Brigitte and the Ana. Again, a lot of disables. And you have 4 heroes that have an ability that disables a Bastion in their form. You can stun, sleep, accretion, or hack the Bastion out of their form. Then you have the Junkrat to potentially displace them, and even the Reinhardt with the charge and the Shadow that can do something against it. There's a lot of anti-Bastion heroes, so to speak. But we'll see if that's going to be enough, as Gnarly is going to pull it out again.
I was just getting ready to talk about the fact that, oh cool, we're seeing a Symmetra here rather than a Bastion, and Gnarly straight back over onto it. You're going to see some early positioning taken on this corner, burning through the Sigma Shield. That's no longer in effect. Gnarly has tracked down that Izzy's on the right-hand side, but Vlasmini's already down. There's no res available here for Garmin Force, and Buns is the real threat here. Everybody's scattered to get out of the way of Gnarly, and Buns just chased them down. There's Dea Ex Machina, and this is looking like a very quick cap for Microsoft Overwatch Series X. Izzy finds one pick on the back end, but that's all that's going to happen here.
It does feel like that composition of Garmin is slightly meant to charge up ultimates and then they'll be valuable. Their basic abilities and damage can do a lot, yes, but it's not one of those basic compositions that just always does things even when they don't have ultimates. They do really need to charge something up. Luckily, Izzy is a quick old charger on that Sombra, so they will probably have an EMP this next fight. They do need to wait for the fight to start and not the Gagne to go down that early.
This is a case where really they should have all backed away to regroup for this next fight. The Gagne going down early, and beautiful scouting there from KYB. Actually spots this out before they can cloak in and start to find some damage. This fight is still going on, but this is can't push for Microsoft Series X, and now KYB has the ult online ready to go. Lena script is down, so the ults are bursting him down in the middle of that ultimate are just vanishing. Florifunds at high charge, can't quite find the pick there onto the Ana, but KYB will close the distance and then wait out the kinetic grasp and then deal with the Dutch scientist. I'm very sorry for your countrymen here.
It's okay. We can deal with it sometimes. No, it's all good. Unfortunately, Vlasmania's ultimate actually just disappeared because they got eliminated as they were throwing it out. But there's so much online, both teams actually. So we'll see if this MPMP does what it does. It does disable a lot.
The EMP was really good, but I've been so impressed by KYB's ability to know where Izzy is coming from. That's been phenomenally good so far, but this is ridiculous. 5.5 minutes left on point C, and Garmin Force have not been able to stop Series X. This is the first dent they've really put in them. Florifun is down, but look at the ults that there are there to play with from Microsoft Series X. Oh, we're going to just gnarly set up in the middle of the street here, slowly pushed out of the way by the cart, but still finding value.
It's magnificent, as we call it. 6 ultimates online as well. They haven't had to use any for a long time. Only 3 for Microsoft Series X. This could just be a completion straight away.
It's a biggie. We get the Death Blossom in over the top. Kip's not going to be able to survive that one, but frankly, I think the damage was done. Naily, Buns, and Yobi all in on the action at the back end here. We've got 4 minutes, 50 seconds left to go on the clock, and nobody from Garmin Force gets anywhere near it.
Oh, the combination of the Reaper and the Zarya, you don't see it often, but when you have 6 ultimates, why the heck not? The Space Flower, as I like to dub it, it's coming out once again. You gotta come up with some new names every now and then, Phil. If we don't get new ultimates, you gotta figure it out somehow. So that's what we're doing here. But I'm gonna be very curious to see if there's gonna be like one of these Hail Mary attack or defense comps coming out from Garmin Force, because that's what you usually look at when you look at a time bank like this. You have to defend for 5 minutes in a little bit. You have only 1 minute of your own. You need to find something that will just consistently work throughout the map. They cannot do that switch strat anymore. They have to straight away get the value that they need. So Lena script on the Junkrat, fine choice. I don't think there's anything wrong with that inherently. All the other heroes are running as well. Izzy on the Bastion can definitely work. But we are, again, running into that issue where you're running a Bastion into a team that's been running the Bastion better than you the entire time, and you haven't really been able to turn that tide. I'm 100% up for being surprised. It's just, it feels like they're just kind of lost as to what to do against this Bastion, and this is the only thing they come up with. And that's fine. Like, sometimes you can turn it around if you find a way to do it, but it hasn't been that way. Fortunately for them, it's a Symmetra, not a Bastion this time around, and that, I would say fortunately, but they might not be expecting that, and it could be a problem in and of itself.
Well, it's already, if you look at the teleporter placements, a very clever teleporter placement, because it's very hard to take down, so the respawns are going to be very quick here for Series X, and that's exactly what you want when you're trying to burn down a small time bank, is just keep yourselves in the fight until it's OT, and then one fight win, and GG, you've won it. Izzy's managing a small amount of ult charge here, struggling to find a good angle to sit up and take place. Oh, Vlasmania down, and at the 30-second marker, that means we've got one more good push here from Garmin Force, and that's it.
Garmin Force, one attempt to potentially bring back the
Gagne!
series, but the Gagne once again goes down early, and this is going to be a hard one to attack with only 5 heroes.
Well, they're going to have to go for it. Gnarly's already got the barrier online, which means that Izzy's going to have to get right in the middle of it to find anything here. Great from KYB. Close the distance, takes Daya Ex Machina out of the fight. For fun with the peak jiggle there. Finds Izzy, knocks them out of the fight, and it's just gonna be a shutout here by Microsoft Series X.
That's a convincing hold, and with 5 minutes 19, you could almost say, well, let's just call the series. This is a 3-0. Let's put it in the books. But we've seen miracles, Phil. I believe in miracles, and let's not forget rules of this tournament. A draw doesn't mean you end the series here. You have to win 3 games, so they could actually have to go to a next map after this, which would be Assault. And, you know, I'm not saying that's necessarily a better option for Microsoft, but at least they get a point on the board. That's always nice.
But here's the thing. It's 5 minutes, 19 seconds to not finish the map, not get to the end of point 2, not even full cap A. It is 1/3 of a tick. And so far, Garmin Force have not been able to stand up to this high damage comp that Microsoft have been throwing at them.
What's your point, Phil? Exactly? You think this is impossible? No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
Impossible, no, but at a certain point, the steepness of a hill technically makes it a cliff.
Yeah, we're calling it improbable at that stage, right? Like,
absolutely.
It's not likely to happen. We're gonna see the May come out from Izzy.
Okay,
I don't think they've been playing that so far. I like the idea indeed, because of course, if you can always split off 1 or 2 heroes, you might just by default always be at an advantage. And Defender's advantage from these chokes is already quite strong, so it's an idea. It's an idea.
Any wall that goes up, Gnarly is just immediately going to turn to shreds. Bit of a misplace on the shield there from the Garnier, goes a bit far and just gets decimated. 1 less obstacle to worry about. That is actually a nice combo there. Good wall, good charge, good comms. Izzy finds Gnarly, and we're 1/3 of the way to having the Blizzard Online, which is a massive shutdown tool here. Still going to see.
It's also the speed at which they executed that was impressive, right? Because like as the wall went up, the charge already came out, and because they realized that wall just gets shredded otherwise, it's very nicely recognized that they did it that quickly.
A little bit of poke on the corner here. No real ult charge to speak of for anybody on Microsoft. They're just looking to do this in the neutral for now, and with a cheeky flank. KYB takes Izzy out of the fight. There goes Vlasmania. And I think, guys, it's time to hang up your hats and coats, because there is nobody there. One last indignity for KYB. Stood in the trap, but that is it. The defense crumbles, and Microsoft Overwatch Series X take the point, take the map, take the match.
Call that a good game. It was a great series. Unfortunately, one of the teams had I wouldn't say an unbeatable strategy, but such an experimental or surprising strategy. We didn't know what to do against it. The Space Blossom once again, Space Flower, what do you want to call it, coming out from the top there. We saw it from the POV of the player that executed it. And what a beautiful POV that was. I mean, if you see that bunched up group of players, you jump in on a Reaper, you press Q. It's one of the best feelings in Overwatch, in my opinion. And of course, with Reaper changes lately, might see more of that come out, depending on how you look at it. Yeah,
certainly one of the predictions for the meta.
For sure. But for now, all we can do is say, don't go anywhere, because we'll take a very short break, and then we'll actually be talking to, hopefully, at least one player from both teams, maybe more. We'll see what comes out at the other end of this.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here with one of the victors of the match just past, Kib of Microsoft Overwatch Series X. So, Kib, congratulations. How are you feeling on the back of that win?
That was a great win. We're all feeling pretty good about our first match
Hmm.
together. We had a few scrims, but this is pretty much our first time together, and it was really fun, and we're feeling great about our win.
Okay, normally Classy and I alternate questions, but I want to jump in here. The Bastion, like, is that a thing you've been scrimming, or is it just Gnarly turned up and went, "I'm going to do this"?
So the last game that we played, the one exhibition match, we were struggling with a Bastion, so we decided to play Bastion ourselves, and it went out pretty well.
Yeah, it did.
So we decided to just play Bastion, and also none of us are DPS players. Like the whole team is 6 support players. So we figured that if we can kind of play Bastion, that can work with us, and we did pretty great. We stuck with it.
Oh, congrats
Yeah,
again.
I mean, knowing some support mains myself, it's always nice to have people that know what supports go through. So if you have 6 of those on the same team, that will probably already remove a lot of friction. Yeah, I mean, the Bastion came out. So you guys think, oh, we're just gonna try and play the Bastion. I think both Phil and me were looking at it like, okay, so the Bastion's coming out, but you're not really doing what people think you should do with the Bastion, right? You're like, set up a shield, put a Bastion behind it, and that's it. Like there was more strategy or more rotations involved in that. Was it something that you like specifically looked at for scrims, or like something that you're specifically like strategizing, or did that just happen?
It kind of just happened. We haven't had much time together, so we haven't screamed a lot. So doing callouts for rotations with Bastion and stuff, it's kind of complicated. So we kind of just roll with whatever the Bastion wanted to do and try to figure it out on the fly.
So I think that raises another interesting point, which is that we have seen Gnarly in previous seasons of CEA where she was, as you hinted at, a support player. How much of today's performance do you think is down to having somebody that has a bit more experience like Gnarly on the team?
So Nali is a relatively quiet player, but all her experience is probably help her figure out how to rotate with Bastion a lot. So I'm pretty sure that help her out on the positioning. Yeah, I think that's
Okay, well, good to know, because you think with a starring role like the Bastion there that it's going to be all comms running through Gnarly. It's surprising to learn she's quiet.
yeah. So we do have shot calling. She called out positions, especially when the Sombra was diving her. Like all that we were communicating. But yeah, we're still figuring out our shot calling in our team, in a way.
It's looking good so far.
And you have time to adjust some more of it because, of course, there is an entire split of CEA still to come. It's only week 1. And you're playing not just for yourselves, not just for the fun, but also for some charity initiatives. Can you tell us a little bit more about what charity you've chosen as the Microsoft Overwatch Series X squad, and why and what involves that?
Yeah, so we're like a group of people like gathering in the Microsoft Overwatch Discord. So we were kind of following the charity that our other team, Office 365 No Scope, chose, and we figured out that was a great choice for us too. So yeah.
Okay, well, yeah,
What is the charity,
a lot
and
about them.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that.
What is the charity? Because I don't think we've actually mentioned the name.
Oh, it's a Game Changer.
Game Changer. There you go.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Phil, what does Game Changer do?
I was just gonna say that we have actually heard about Game Changer a few times over the course of the last season, but my follow-up to that, Classy, was that I can't remember specifically what their aim is. So yeah, apologies.
No, that's completely fine because I have it right here naturally because that's how
I
that
see.
works.
You just wanted to throw me under the bus, did you?
No, I genuinely thought you do. So yeah. So basically, what Game Changer does, Game Changing provides gaming technology, just games and all of that. They use that medium to make the lives of people with COVID, specifically kids, but also people with like cancer patients, etc., to make their lives a little bit better. So yeah, it's all about giving them a little bit of light in a sometimes darker time in their lives. I think I've done that decently at explaining that. So yeah, definitely a cause worth giving to if you are so inclined.
Well, Kib, we stole a little bit of your spotlight there at the end, but we are coming to the end of the interview portion. So before we let you go back to celebrate with your team, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I like to give a shout out to like the whole team, the whole squad, people from the XX Office 365 team that have been coaching us and helping us set up the team. They've been a really great help for us, and all of our players. I think we all did pretty great, like considering that we haven't been together for a long time. So yeah, and also the CA staff for setting up all these tournaments. They're very fun.
Well, we're glad to hear it, Kib. Thank you again for taking part and for joining us in the interview today. Everybody else, I'm afraid that is now the end of today's broadcast. And so, Classy, all that remains to ask is any words to close out today's games on?
I think we've seen a lot of interesting things today. I think if we hear from scrims that Bastion is a fairly big deal, it might be the split of the Bastion,
Oh, Lord.
the CEA Bastion Spring split. Of course, it's just speculation, and we have only seen a few games, but maybe next week we come back, we see more of this, some more scrims have happened. I'm all for it, Phil. Experimentation in CEA. Next year, we'll see it in Overwatch League. Bold explanations here, but we're gonna see it. I hope we see more.
Well, certainly reason to fear the coming weeks of the CEA Overwatch tournament, and we will join you for more of it next week. Good night and take care, everybody.